of writing that legislation and so on, so that we don't miss deadlines, for example. But that's another area of capacity in our own institution. We need to build sufficient legislative constitutional capacity within our own ranks as parliament, so that we can undertake that function when appropriate, to close the gap and not miss deadlines.
Well, thank you very much. There's another matter arising out of this, out of the report. Sorry. There's another matter arising out of, it just occurs to me now. The Section 194 committee. I now hear, for the first time here, that it's being extended to June. The deadline which we had agreed to, all of us, is that end of May, come end of May, that report will be submitted to Parliament. I'm raising this, honorable members, not out of being insensitive to the work that's being done by the committee, but it's because of the difficulties we have been having of finding money for the continuation of that, the work of that committee, the difficulties of paying legal costs. Now, you will know that for the past month, we've been engaging with ministers, making an appeal that, so that at least we can conclude this process, because the Office of the Public Protector says they don't have money anymore. Finally, a decision has been taken that there'll be an allocation of 4 million, which is, I think, a rollover in the Office of the Public Protector. That 4 million is meant to cover the month of May. Come end of May, we will not be able to push any further for anyone to make money available for the legal costs. I mean, we've tried, one has tried very hard. It's been very difficult, to a point where there was a suggestion that Parliament itself should now fund the rest of the hearings. And I said, but we are conducting oversight. Indeed, we are responsible for the inquiry, but it can't, the money can't come from Parliament for that. The money must come from the office, and unfortunately, it's not our decision. It was a decision of the court that the Public Protector legal costs should be paid for. Nothing to do with us as Parliament. And now we are finding ourselves, colleagues, in a situation where there was a push that you find the money if you want to continue. And I said, we will not find the money. We don't have the money. So, and if we are to stop this whole process midway before we've completed it, there will be an audit finding against Parliament. There will be an audit finding against us. Equally, there'll be an audit finding against the Office of the Public Protector, but the people in the main will bear the brunt of criticism. It is Parliament, as though it is our problem. It's not our problem. It cannot be our problem. If there is a hearing, and then the appropriate office where the person is being charged must take the responsibility. I thought I should say this because there's another 194 committee which is coming now, and that is that of the CGE. And I can foresee a situation where there's going to be another struggle between the executive of Parliament together with the offices concerned to get money to fund that. And we can't afford it. In fact, one of the things which Parliament will have to discuss is whether really, particularly when you look at the term of a person, and you can see that the end of term is almost there, whether you want to continue to have these kinds of hearing and spend the kind of money which we have spent on the legal costs of the Public Protector, or you want to say to the person, look, let's negotiate your package and you leave. Because my issue now is, if indeed this 194, we will not start with it for as long as there is no clarity as to who will fund the 194 committee dealing with the CGE issues, which is a very important process as well because so much has happened there. But the point I am raising, honorable members, without prolonging the issue, is that the costs, the legal costs of the process we are currently embarking on have gone way beyond, it would seem, what was anticipated. And now people find it difficult to make money available, and that is why there had to be negotiations that the rollover from the PPSA should actually be made available for these legal costs. So, honorable members, honestly, from the side of Programming Committee, we cannot go into June with this process. We had agreed that initially it should have been end of April, but because there were these negotiations over finance for the legal costs, now we are at a point where there is some money available, and that money has been calculated such that it will take us up to end of May. So, fact that now there's something coming from the programming, from the program, that we will finish mid-June, I'm not aware of that. And as a person who really has been battling to get this money for this process, I'm not prepared to get anymore. I've tried my best, and I'm not doing it again. So it is either people continue and it ends end of May, or the process collapses, and in that case, it means the public protector walking away without a conclusion of the case. Honorable members, Honorable Kwahube, sorry, and then Honorable Mulder, Honorable Korenov.
Thank you, Speaker. I think Dr. Lottridge will speak to the issue of the 194. I just wanted to reflect on the one part about bills, executive bills that are coming through to Parliament. I think in your engagements with the LOGB, we've got to be a lot more firmer. Because ultimately, when we are unable to process bills term, it's an indictment on us as people who are lawmakers. And we've seen this in the past where there's a huge dump of bills at the end, and we are in an incredible rush to get them through committees, to get them voted. And it is not fair, and it doesn't do justice to the lawmaking process. And we did say this in the last term, that there has to be some kind of soft and hard deadline to the executive about what, how, when, and up until when can bills be introduced in Parliament. Otherwise, it's not to say that we are inhibiting the process of lawmaking, but then we're not going to be able to do the work that we're meant to do sufficiently in the time that we have. Also bearing in mind that there's an NCOP process that too has to take place. So then what's the point of introducing legislation that's either going to lapse and not go through the entire process, or we're going to end up having to rush it, or it's going to be sent back by the NCOP and the like. And so I do think we've got to be a lot firmer with the LOGB about this. Their poor planning can't constitute our emergency on our side. They've got to plan themselves. They know the term is coming to an end. If there are things that are urgent, they've got to prioritize. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kwahube. Honorable Dr. Mulder, followed by Honorable Korenov.
Yes, Honorable Chairperson. I serve on that committee, but I think Dr. Lottridge is better positioned to give the feedback in terms of the money situation. When that committee started on the first day, I said this is going to be a strategy to keep us busy for months and months, and I've been absolutely being proven correct. I can assure you, if we find the money now for the next month, at the end of the next month, there will be a request for more money for the next month, and it will continue as is. We are paying, when the court said we should assist with legal costs, it should be reasonable. We are paying now for a Rolls Royce. I would also like to drive in a Rolls Royce, but we are paying exuberant fees now for a Volkswagen at huge costs. It doesn't make sense. I can't think that any court will say that we have faltered in our duty, but it's going beyond reasonableness now, and my suggestion would be that we advise the public protector to appeal and go to the Legal Aid Board. That is what normal people necessarily do. She's had been millions of rands being spent. Nothing focuses the mind like a deadline. So we should set a deadline and allow that committee to finish, but we can't continue to drag out like this. And it's not an option to let this case fall or to let the public protector just walk away. We can't do that.
Very Honorable Lotred, Dr. Lotred.
Thank you, Speaker. Yes, indeed, I fully agree that this cannot be allowed to collapse. That will be fruitless and wasteful expenditure. I think it's something like 27 million that has already been spent. Now there's an additional 4 million. And the reason at our last meeting that we had for the request for an extension is based on the fact that it was decided to provide the public protector now with the opportunity this week to obtain legal services counsel, but it will proceed on Monday. The committee will proceed. But I fully agree that at this point I think it is going to the extremes in terms of legal costs. It is unreasonable, and I think also the court ruling that the public protector is entitled to legal counsel or representation did not imply the most expensive legal services that can be found. So I do propose, and I say this even though I am a member of the committee, that Parliament must now decide this is it. We finish the process and come to a conclusion. Thank you.
ATS.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm talking to the report of the committee by the committee section and the issue you raised on section 194. On the presentation, the new deadline is 26 June. Our program, the last plenary that we have for the second term, is the 15th of June. That means if the committee sticks to and endorses their new deadline, they're not going to report to the Parliament, to the National Assembly in this term. That'll mean it'll be in the third term. So I just want to flag it and to support your suggestion that we need to think very carefully about the program of that committee and the deadline. And then I fully agree with the executive bills. A discussion should be discussed with the LOGB through the parliamentary councillor to say which bills are urgent and what deadlines before they introduce to Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Korenhoff. Honorable DS.
Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, I agree with, in principle, the necessity for us to, what is the word, to talk against the extension of time the way it has been done. Not only because the costs involved, that's important, but the principles that are up for adjudication by that committee are the most crucial issues that cannot be allowed to disappear because the process was not completed. So we must insist. We want to see the process completed so that an adjudication is made on the matters up for discussion in that committee. The costs, I agree with Dr. Mulder that the amount of money involved is unreasonable. It is, the courts could not have had that in mind, what has happened in mind, for example. It's been extreme, and we must resist that. It's inappropriate, we can't afford it, and as you correctly say, through your own efforts, that it's difficult for anyone to try and find more money for that kind of work anymore. So I'm suggesting briefly that, no, the program cannot be extended. We can't be strung along in a way that is obvious its intention because of claims about money and so on. The committee itself must insist that the program must be brought back to comply with the time originally intended and so on. It already, as Dr. Korenhoff suggests, flies in the face of our own programming of the House and its sittings, for example.
Thank you very much, Honorable TS. Honorable Singh.
No, thank you, very Honourable Speaker. I would just want to concur with my other colleagues, Honourable Speaker, that we really cannot abandon this process of. This is really going to be a seminal decision for Parliament. And its importance cannot be overemphasized, whatever the decision is, because this will be kind of setting a precedence as well as we move forward to other matters like you talk about the CGE. So from the side of the IFP, we must not abandon this process. And if need be, we can have a special sitting. We've had special sittings before. So even if it's during the recess, if we need to call ourselves back together to consider the report of this committee, we must do so. But the other issue I want to raise, Honourable Speaker, is it not possible for our legal team, meaning Parliament, to ask for an urgent declarator from the Constitutional Court on what do we do? Explaining to them where we find ourselves, informing them that it is their decision that has put us into this kind of quote-unquote quagmire, and how do we proceed without flouting the law? And declarators are something that, you know, we always ask for when we're uncertain about how to move forward in terms of the law. So is that something that we can consider as a legal team? Thank you.
Thank you very much, honourable members. Honourable
Sheikh
Imam
Imam.
Sheikh.
Thank you, yeah. I think I must agree with my colleague, Chairperson. First of all, it is not the responsibility of Parliament to pay this legal cost. And if we're going to continue our setting a precedent, it's going to expect us all the time. But very importantly, you know, it seems like the courts are running Parliament these days. And some of the judgments that are being made, really, it's affecting the smooth running of Parliament itself. But I think it's also a very important point that was made. How do you decide what quality of senior counsel or junior counsel you must have? Why should you go for the best or for, you know, depending on the rates they charge? And when the court said that, yes, indeed, she's entitled to, the public protector is entitled to legal costs, I would imagine they meant the Office of the Public Protector would have to pay for it, not Parliament. That's the first thing. But at the same time, the rate that is charged should be reasonable, that is affordable. But I obviously see that the court has not looked at that. My other issue is, and I think I must agree that we have to be very careful because there's going to be serious implications, particularly for always seems to be attacked for everything from what I observe. On the issue of these, the bills, my concern, Honourable Speaker, is what criteria do we have to even introduce bills? And I'll tell you where I'm coming from. The Muslim Marriages Bill, there's not one organization thus far, not one, that as far as I'm concerned that I've spoken to is in support of this, not one. All of them are opposing it. But more importantly, the minister says that the amendments that he's bringing currently with the bill makes provision to protect all customary and religious marriages and things as well. So, you know, I think these are some of the things that we're going to need to look at, that we're bringing in additional bills and amendments. Is it necessary if the current bills or the current legislation or the amended bill that's coming before the House does cater for it? But I must agree with what Honourable Singh is saying, that we need a bill that will cater for everybody, because otherwise each other grouping is going to say we need a separate bill, and it's going to make it very difficult. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Singh. Honourable Lisuma, you'll be the last one on the matter.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I must declare that I'm slightly covered by my colleagues. Safe to say that in terms of what has been presented to us, in one of the meetings, if I'm not mistaken, this year, which is the financial year, we did request that the schedule of all the bills that are before us and those ones that had to go to the NSOP, of which it was done last day during the chairs workshop in Johannesburg. And the intention was to say to the chairs, please pay attention to these bills, those ones that have got court timeline bearing, and also those ones that you as various committees, as Parliament, one of your core mandate is to make laws. And unfortunately, I'm general here, I'll come to the specific. Committee seems not to do or appreciate that. The only committee that I've seen that is trying its level best is the Friends of the Court, the Justice Committee. They have processed about 13 bills in this term. And other committees are spilled over or leftovers from the previous parliament, and are still nowhere. And that's a problem. And I think at this level of this committee, we would like a message to go to those committees through the chairpersons, the chair of chairs, to say they are not doing us any good. Two, Chair, is I appreciate that the sooner the better the meeting with the leader of government business takes place. One is to say nothing stops committees or a member to initiate the bill. Equally goes to the committee, also nothing stops that if the executive delays to introduce the bill to parliament, because some of the bills gets delayed there. They tend to be to and fro and all that. And I think committees must be bold enough to say, we are taking over this bill, we shall initiate it and follow due processes in terms of processing. The third point, Chair, sometimes, because I serve two committees that, not sometimes, let me say, I suggest that the Bills Office, with various legal support that they provide in various committees, probably just a template that says that for the bill to be processed and reach its own logical conclusion, these are the steps, and these steps, they take so long. Your public participation, your oral submission, all those things, and also your internal processes, and also the checking against the Constitution, whether does it comply with the Constitution and all that, so that committees, when they deal with the bills, they know that this is a time frame. If they delay it, this is the implications thereof. And of course, Honorable Speaker, we are not going to agree from where I'm seated, where the executive throw the bills to us in the last minute, and we are the ones that takes the flag. And I think that one, it's a no-go area. The fourth one, Chair, which my colleagues have spoken to, is the Section 194 of the PP. And I think all of us will all agree that we can't allow the pushing of the goalpost all the time. It's got human pressure that it puts, it's got financial pressure that it puts. But for me, Honorable Speaker, it talks to when the court decides and make a ruling, what advances as Parliament we put to say, while we respect courts, but these are the implications into whatever judgment that we are going to make. One is the financial implications, the time factor, and the practicality of applying or implementing that rule, not only on Section 194. I'm happy with the other one, your stance that you are taking, because we'll never finish. Sometimes some other people, without casting aspersion to anyone, they get joy when we are frustrated with the processes that the court would have pronounced, so that we get accused that we don't respect the courts and also follow the due processes. But otherwise, this one, there is a tactic that is there. But I'm suggesting this item must be a standalone outside the bills unit report, to get the process, the progress thereof, that are we getting any joy in terms of that. But also in the same breath, we must say, if we take this route, which it sounds very exciting and encouraging, the agent declarator, I'm learning today, to cause to make our appeal, let's explore that one and other possibilities to say, how do we get ourselves out of this? And of course, some of these processes, they become very costly. I'm just checking my notes here. Other than that, Honourable Speaker, we noted the report tabled before us with those recommendations that we have been advancing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lisuma. Just to say that I'm aware now that the matter of the public protector, even though we are busy with it, we are dealing with it, even though now money has been made available, the matter is again in court. And yesterday we had to file papers to respond to that. My issue is, colleagues, it can't be. Last week it said April. Now, April, we agreed on May. Now we are, in a sense, mid-May. And now we are in court, and I've not quite understood the reasons why we are in court this time. After really battling to get the money, to find the money, there's money now available for us to complete the process. So I don't understand that, but we are nonetheless, we've filed papers, and hopefully the matter will not be delayed any further. Honorable Dr.
Sorry,
Mulder?
Chairperson, just on that specific point. Separation of powers are a fundamental basic principle of our Constitution. The legislative arm should do what we need to do, and the rest can do what they want to do, but we've got a duty to do as the legislature what we need to do in terms of the legislation. And if anybody's not happy with that, they are free to approach the courts afterwards, but we cannot be held ransom at this stage. We've got other important things to do with the money that is allocated to Parliament as well.
Very much on Dr. Mulder. Honorable Singh?
Yeah, Speaker, just a quick point. And then the other thing is, I mean, we were told last week, and we're considering now an ad hoc committee for the appointment of a new public prosecutor, protector. The term of office of the current public protector ends, I think, on the 27th of October.
14th of October.
14th of October. 14th of October. So what's going to be the import of any decision that we take if it's after that? Is it going to impact on pension? Is this thing just going to be moot? Or, you know, so these are all the factors that a reasonable court has to be consider in a very reasonable manner. As far as it's putting Parliament in a very awkward situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. I'm just glad that all of us have an appreciation of the difficulty we're finding ourselves in. And as I said earlier on, whatever happens, if this process collapses, the people who will bear the brunt, it is Parliament. People will say, well, fruitless expenditure over this period of 2 years whilst we were dealing with the issue. So all of these matters are matters which we're going to be discussing with Honorable Frolik and Honorable Kyange. Honorable Kyange must finalize the process. Now then, honorable members, shall we then proceed, if it's agreed, to the next item, and that is a presentation from Dr. Mbata on the Bills Office.
Good morning, honorable members. Good morning, honorable Speaker, and thank you for the opportunity. Our report will start on slide number 2. Ms. Giba has already indicated that we've got 2 bills that have been recently introduced, and the names are the Public Administration Management Amendment Bill. It's a proposed Section 76, and the second one is the South African Post Office Amendment Bill, and it's a proposed Section 75. On the next slide, I have indicated the number of bills introduced that are on the 2023 legislative program. And the South African Post Office, it's part of the bills that are on the 2023 legislative program, which is the one that was introduced yesterday. And on the next slide, I'm indicating the bills that have been approved by Cabinet for introduction. We've recently received the Electricity Regulation Amendment Bill. I must mention, Madam Speaker, that this bill as well, it's part of the list of the 2023 legislative program. And on the next slide, I'm indicating the bills that have been sent to the President for assent. The Constitution 18th Amendment Bill has been sent yesterday, and we've got one that has been passed by Parliament as well yesterday, which is the Division of Revenue Bill. We are still processing it to be sent to the President for assent. And the second language of that bill is Xitsonga. And the second language of the Constitution, 18th Amendment Bill, it's Setswana. Thank you, that's all from the Bell's office.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mbata, that was quick. Honorable members, are there any comments on the report? None, honorable members. We then proceed. Consideration of the parliamentary program. Honorable Lisuba.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. We will start by registering that, yes, indeed, yesterday we presented the draft program before the Chief Whips Forum, which is a consultative forum. And we are saying today, Honorable Speaker, that we shall continue reflect the International Fora diary as we get them, as well as the reports thereof of all committees and international reports immediately after they have been ATC'd accordingly. That's one. Two, Honorable Speaker, the program is the same. There's no change or much change from last week. Safe to say that on the 15th we have populated the Public Service Commission or DPSA stroke DPME Portfolio Committee report on the appointment of the Public Service Commissioner that has to be appointed by the President or for the 6th of June. Secondly, that the matters of scheduling the debates, which earlier on was among the matters arising of debates on topics of external bodies and international engagement, it is receiving attention. If then there is one, for now there is nothing, Honorable Speaker and honorable members. The third point that would like to talk to is the debate for a SNAP debate sponsored by Honorable Heron on failure of government to extradite persons implicated in corruption as demonstrated by the recent case in the UAE, which is United Arab Emirates, and the consequences thereof. It is receiving an attention, but we must also give a bit of explanation that we had a principled understanding that debates or first reading of the members' bills will be scheduled in mini plenaries. And of course, weighing other issues, there will be a special, if there's a special request permitted by your good self, we will consider that. And of course, by your instructions, accede to that directive. We will be scheduling this, but noting that the second quarter is very short. It's a budget month or quarter, if I may say that. We will endeavor when we come back for the third quarter to schedule the motion. The last point that I think it's fair enough to talk to, we did indeed receive a special request from the minister responsible for electricity from your good office. We were intending having a special peculiar dispensation on that to schedule for today. However, there was through your good office, Honorable Speaker, that it should remain pending until further notice. Then it won't reflect here, although it was tabled before the Chiefs Forum yesterday. But there was also a plea which also came from your good office that I'm advised, or we are advised, that all political parties have seen it to the Chiefs Forum, a group that all political parties has been advised that last night that debate don't take place until further notice. Other than that, Honorable Speaker, all goes well. Safe to say that what was also raised last week in terms of the mini plenaries of budget votes, we have taken account the starting time that it will remain, but will reduce the time of lunch, and this draft program reflects as such from the Chiefs Forum in terms of the timing and all that. But we agreed that the starting time will remain as has been populated. There are no mini plenaries that are going to change. They will remain as such, and we hope that the executive, they are not going to come at the last minute to make a plea of changing. They've done it previously, Honorable Speaker, but we're not going to accede to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lisuma. Mr. Klassen?
Madam Speaker, I would like to point out something that was discussed in the NAPC yesterday. If we may go to in the Chief Whip's Forum meeting yesterday, my apologies, Tuesday, 16th May, if you could go there. There was a view that we should try to adjourn earlier than we've been adjourning during mini plenary debates. And so there was a proposal that we do say 4 in the morning into afternoon, and we're therefore asked to work out the time slots. Now, that is what we have been able to do, and we would like this committee to express itself on the matter. So your first mini plenaries would start at 10 till 12. Your second set of mini plenaries would start at 12:15 till 2:15, and then there's a break, 45 minutes break. We resume at 3 till 5. What we had before was that the last mini plenary would sit until 6:15. All right. So we're cutting it down by about an hour. We are placing this before the NAPC, and it's a pity that Honorable Papo is not here, but Honorable Kornoff is here, because it will impact the program of the executive as well if it is changed. But the NAPC needs to express itself on the matter. Either we go for this version, or we stick to what we have agreed, the committee has agreed on previously. We thought we should point that out, Madam Speaker. Thanks.
Thank you, honorable members. I will allow for a discussion of this matter. I wish people could know that there was a time when we knocked out of Parliament at 11, at 12 midnight. And it was not a pleasant, it was not a pleasant experience for many of us, but nonetheless, we were compelled to do it because there was a reason for that. I'm just stating it, and I'll allow members to discuss the matter, because we haven't heard the reasons why people are unhappy with the adjournment at 6:30, because there is transport available for members. But nonetheless, it's open for a discussion, dears.
Madam Speaker, those days we had beds in our offices. Now we don't have offices. Now we don't have offices. Forget about the beds to take a 10-minute nap in your room. I agree with the proposal to cut it down to 4 o'clock as proposed here. I think it's a reasonable arrangement. It makes sense from a number of reasons. Of those 4 plenaries, for all other things that we need to do subsequent to that. I think it's easier on many members if we go this route. That's
You are now speaking in parables. We just need to understand the reasoning so that we can then be informed as we discuss and whether we agree or not at the end. But at least we must have a context within which this proposal is being made.
Madam Speaker, when we arrange plenaries, 4 of them on the day, for example, it is reasonable to allow space at the end of the day for members to be able to attend to what otherwise they wouldn't be able to do ordinarily. In addition to attending plenary sessions, there's administration that must be attended to during that period. It does not require us to postpone it, for example, and we fall foul of other procedures if you don't attend to that administrative work that needs to be done. And this is why I think others have pleaded that we bring back time so that they have a bit of time before the end of the day to attend to those things. And I think ending too late creates other complications, Madam Speaker. Unfortunately now, because of the way things have changed, there is necessity for us to allow for space for members to be able to go back home and so on. We are almost in a period that is already constituencies almost regularly, if not physically, but at least by phone and so on. So before the end of the day, that's about the best time to do those things.
Thank you very much, Honorable TS. You know why I'm smiling? I'm smiling because I think you should have been the last one to speak on the matter, and as a presiding officer, so that I allow the others to speak. And then you can summarize. Honorable Kwahube, followed by Dr. Mulder, and then Honorable Singh, Honorable Lisuma. And
Thanks, Speaker. Look, I mean, for us, I think the main thing is if we are cutting out the length of the time spent on lunch, that's fine. Our main contention is that we must make sure that the more mini plenaries that are happening in a day for us means that the more members are able to attend some of these. And I don't see any problem as to why we can't complete our work at 6:15 and 6:30 at all. I think, you know, we mustn't pretzel ourselves to try and finish earlier. If the constraints are around venues, we must rather, you know, prioritize having those mini plenaries. For me, I think the members are going to, at the very least, I'll have more members on the precinct to be able to attend some of these in person. And that for me is the big priority, to have people showing up in these mini plenaries as much as possible. And so, you know, it's just a matter of whether or not we are able to schedule them well, and have them done. Thanks.
thank you very much, Honorable Kwahube. Honorable Dr. Mulder.
Just 3 points, Chairperson. Ideally speaking, in an ideal world, we shouldn't debate 6 budget votes on one day. But that's just the reality, unfortunately. Ideally, we should have 2 debates on a day with sufficient time for members to really debate. But okay, I understand the problem. Secondly, one of the reasons that was put forward yesterday was to say because of load shedding and the winter reality in the Western Cape at the moment, colleagues then go home at night in the dark, getting there during load shedding. So that was one concern, and there was some concern expressed in that regard. Just a last point, the point that you made about years ago when we still had debates until 11 at night. The record will show that some of the best speeches in Parliament were delivered after supper at night. And there may be dispute why that would be the case, but maybe we should create the opportunity for some good speeches again.
We all know the reasons why. Thank you, Dr. Mulder. Honorable Singh.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Being there, some of them used to be converted into spiritual sessions at a certain time. Honorable Speaker, I mean, firstly, I think we set aside 2 hours for these debates. Right. 2 hours, right. So I notice here on the program we've got from 14 to 16:15 for some of them, if you go to some of them. And then you're starting at 16:30. Right. Why don't we start at 16:14 to 16, then 16:15 to 18:15? Now, we all know traveling in traffic out of here at 5 o'clock will get you home at after 7. All right? But if you leave here at 6:15, you'll be home at 7. Right? So why complicate matters affecting lunch, affecting the staff, affecting everything? Finish earlier in our mind, but get home later. So that's one. Secondly, if we consider load shedding, which we have to consider, why don't we start at 9 o'clock? 9 to 11, 11 to 1. Then you have your sittings, because we also have committees sitting at that time, so we are juggling. Start at 9, 9 to 11, 11 to 1, lunch, and then we adjourn. Thank you. But this 12, 15, 14, 15 is a very awkward suggestion, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Korenhoff. I wish you could also talk to the proposal made by Honorable Singh. Thank you. Of 9 o'clock.
Just linking up to that, a simple question. In any normal week, between 46 and 52 committees meet during a week. Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, Thursdays are caucuses, Friday mornings. So my question is, if we adopt this proposal, how will that affect committee meetings during the week? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Korenhoff. Okay.
Ma'am, just to clarify that this proposal, the only difference with what we've agreed on previously are the times. So we've not changed the number of mini plenaries that have been agreed to. So mini plenaries were in any event starting at 10 o'clock. That has not changed. It remains. But the concern was the adjournment time. So that's the only difference. Of course, it then impacts on when lunch is and that. 9 o'clock was raised yesterday, but there was a concern about members traveling from the villages and the buses and the time in the Chief Whip's Forum. So then the view was that, look, let's forget about the 9 o'clock start. Let's keep to 10. So if there's a concern with these times, we'll simply revert to what we have, which has been already negotiated with the executive, which was adopted by the program committee previously. But we thought we should test this year because this is the decision making. And of course, in any event, the program is a prerogative of the program committee. So this is the committee that will make the decision on this matter. Yeah. But Honorable Lesoma, may you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Klaso. Honorable Lesoma, or before I allow you, let me allow Honorable Ndombela and Dr. Lauren, and then you'll close.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And my apologies for having arrived late. Madam Speaker, one of the reasons that was cited for us to cut time was the advent of the situation that members find themselves in when they come home. Coming late in the dark, when it is dark, with load shedding on, those were some of the fears that members raised that I think could also be taken into consideration. I mean, it's got something to do with the psychological being of those who are not comfortable when arriving home at that time of the night with that kind of a situation. So I'm just saying it's one of the things that we can consider when we have to change time. And how do we take care of our members after having done work that they did during the course of the day? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Ndombela. Dr. Lauren, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Speaker. I think we're overcomplicating things. I would propose that we stick to what we have. Members have these programs already. They have planned accordingly. And I think we're going to create a lot of confusion amongst members if we now start changing times. In any case, on a Wednesday, Thursday, mostly we do end later. So it's basically on a Tuesday. And I think it just causes confusion. Thank you.
Very much, Honorable Dr. Lauret. Honorable Lesuma. Honorable Sheikh Imam, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Maybe next time I'll sit on that side to make it easier for you. Thank you very much. Yeah, you know, on the issue of dark, millions of people are going home when it's dark, and they don't have the luxury of getting transport provided to their doors and being picked up there. So for me, I don't think that should be even considered. I want to support us remaining on the current, what we've agreed on in the 6:15 that we're finishing. And the issue of 9 o'clock, Honorable Speaker, if you look at what happened this morning, and which will happen repeatedly, you have load shedding from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the morning. So can you imagine if you want to start at 9 o'clock, what time people will have to get up at 4, 5 o'clock to be ready to be able to do that, because of load shedding is going to affect them. So I really don't think it will work. Now, another very important point, and Mr. Singh has raised that as well. If you leave here at 5 o'clock or 5:15, you're still gonna get home at 7 o'clock. If you leave at 6:15, you'll still get home at 7 o'clock. Most of that time, you're gonna be spending in traffic in any case. Same problem in the morning, same in the afternoon. So I think 6:15 for me, it's been, and like I said about the load shedding, I can't understand this because load shedding is either from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock or 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. And if you look at the time we're going to finish, even if you looked at 5 o'clock, you're going to get home when it's load shedding. If you finish at 6:15, you're still going to get home home when it's load shedding. So I don't think the issue of the load shedding effect. So I think we should rather leave it. My suggestion is that we stick to 6:15. Lastly, the issue of lunch. You're giving now 45 minutes. Are these restaurants where all members are going to be able to deal with them in that short space of time? And remember, some go to the restaurant on the top and come here to debate and things. So taking all that into consideration, I think my suggestion would be that we stick to 6:15 as we are now. Thank you.
Very much, Honorable Sheikh Imam. Honorable members, I'm sorry. Oh, Honorable Lisuma, I'm sorry.
You know, Honorable Speaker, I'm laughing because honorable members, they sit in the Chief Whip's Forum where we try to process matters. And for whatever good reason, then there's a change of mind, which is allowed. But it just confuses the administration, I must say, as a person that also sits at the technical committee to prepare for all these processes before we come here, that you end up not too sure what is being agreed on. And of course, at the Chief Whip's Forum, it will be an understanding. And here, then it will be clear. But also, I will urge that we don't forget what we would have advanced in the Chief Whip's Forum as members. It's only a good self and the Deputy Chief Whip doesn't attend those meetings. That's one. But two, Chair, I don't think we're trying to say we're lazy to wake up or to do our work. I don't think that's what we're saying. But we want to be comfortable as ever as everybody else, including the support staff that supports us when we do our work. The reason that was advanced was that at the time we finish in Cape Town, where we reside, load shedding starts at 6 o'clock. When you reach home, it's dark. You can't even see your finger and yourself. That was the reason, hence the change. But there's no change in terms of what the framework that we agreed late last year and also early this year in terms of the budget votes spreading and all that. Everybody knows that, including the executive. Two, Chair, for me, not that because I don't like food, I do like food to keep me going. But in any event, the truth must be told, members, they are in and out in the sittings. Regardless of the lunch, what time is it? They do that. But the other thing that honorable members, I should have raised when I think Mr. Kaso that you raised the time change is the issue of attendance of members themselves now, regardless whether it's 12 o'clock or it's 3 o'clock. Yesterday, it was and day before on Tuesday, if there were 20 in the house, there were many. And it was suggested, which I think all of us will agree, that members must support each other per cluster if they debate, because at any given time, only 2 sitting seats in terms of the mini plenaries. The issue of transport, it's not the factor, and it was said yesterday, because timetable of the buses can change at any given time to suit our programs. I will suggest, Honorable Speaker, through your good self in this meeting, that the administration have tried their level best to balance our issues, to make sure that we are all comfortable, that we agree on what is tabled here, which has been circulated to all of us and have been communicated to all of us, because there's no change in terms of the voting dates. 2 is that, there's no 2. Let me stop there to say let's accept this. It's my appeal that we accept this and we monitor whether does it work for us or not for the week that was, and we assess as we move along. But we must also, my appeal is that let's stick to our decisions when we make decisions, because when we change and change our minds, it does make difficult how then you find the middle way where you satisfy everybody. That would be my
Thank you
appeal.
very much, Honorable Lisuma. Honorable members, after this discussion, my sense is that let's keep to our original decision. If there are further difficulties, people can discuss those at the whippery, but we should not find it easy to just willy-nilly change decisions which we have taken. Let's commit to the decisions and try our best to implement those. Now, Honorable Lisuma, do you have any announcements? I'm looking at the time. We've taken slightly longer today because of that first item.
Sorry, Speaker, we all have to run to caucus. If administration can just correct those times over there, you know, the 14 to 16:15 is 2 hours, 15 minutes, and then 16:30 to 18:15 gives you 1 hour, 45 minutes. So just try and balance that, you know, so just balance those times so we finish by 18:15, if you just look at the 18th of May. And I think the other issue, Honorable Speaker, that I don't think we have time to discuss now, this messy situation on the statement by the Minister of Electricity. It's unfortunate that there was so much of obfuscation on this matter. First you get a notice, it's on, and then at midnight I send a notice to my members, it's not on. I think we need to know what happened, because I think at last week's programming committee, we decided that it should take place at the next plenary, which is when the Deputy President was going to, the day we have the Deputy President. We didn't want to interfere with the President today. So we really need to know, what happened. I mean, why this ping pong? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. It is true that we owe you an explanation on that one. Honorable members, indeed we received this request, I think on Friday. No, the request to have, verbal request on Friday for the minister to address the assembly. And then yesterday then we received a written confirmation of that request. We then allowed the Chief Whips Forum to discuss the matter and see if we could at least accommodate the minister. After the Chief Whips Forum, I was informed by Mr. Kaso that there's agreement. I then wrote a letter same time, I think just before lunch, to the minister to confirm that he will be allowed to make a statement today. Our anticipation was that these are two different things. President would come in, answer questions, and of course President would then take leave, and then we'll continue with the business of Parliament and have that was the reasoning of the whippery when they made the proposal. So I agreed to that, I confirmed it. And then around 8 last night, a call came through that he will not be able to continue with this. There were various reasons given, and I don't want us to get into that, because initially it was about state of readiness. At some point it was about whether he should do it after the president had answered questions and so on. So now we have received a letter which Mr. Kaso can read to you, which explains the reasoning why he will not be making that statement today. And we've accepted, and I've made it clear to the minister that unfortunately it means that he's missed an opportunity this time. He will not have time to do that. We can look at it when we come back. Thank you. Yes.
Madam Speaker, I'll just read the second paragraph, which gives the reason. Letter is dated today's date. since been brought to under my attention that the Honorable President will be responding to questions in Parliament on the same day and may inadvertently take or respond to questions on the subject matter intended for my executive staff. I wish to hereby respectfully withdraw my request made in terms of Rule 133(1). Yours sincerely, Dr. Ramakgopa. Thank you.
Honorable members, that which was given to us, I propose that we just accept this because it's not going to change anything now, but I think there's an opportunity which was lost, and next session when we come back in August, that's unfortunate. So if there are no other announcements,
The only announcement, ma'am, is that next week is physical NAPC. So up to the time we end, up to the end of this session. Thank you.
yes, Honorable Lisuma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Safe to say today is a Q&A to the President in the Good Hope, and but also say that I'm suggesting that in moving forward, we shouldn't tamper with the day where the President is going to appear in the House. There was a good reason, however, correctly as you are saying, missed the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Just to say, Madam Speaker, so the program that members will see is the same in terms of times as the one that was agreed to previously. So it will not be this, what you see here. Thank you so much.
Very much. You know, I'm glad you raised that, Honorable Lisuma, because initially I was reluctant to allow for this statement to be made today, precisely because it is a day when the President will be answering questions. But you yourselves in the whippery, after maybe we should allow it, I then said, okay, let's allow it. But I did say that to Mr. Kaso that I hope there will be no repetition of that in future. But I also understood the urgency of the matter because he was not the only one who was pushing that he makes this calling and saying, please give him an opportunity to make the statement. It would seem he should, last week,